Welcome friends to another r/malicious compliance video. If you'd like to be a helpful person and support people, consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by Flaming Wolf 91. Manager told me to ask the dishwasher for help, so I did. For a little backstory, I used to work at this fast food place. The manager never did their job and let it fall on everyone else. For many different reasons that would take a whole other post to mention, I decided to quit. 2 weeks later, I'm working my last day. The manager scheduled me to close and do deposit for my last night. Usually there's 2 cashiers, 2 runners/baggers, a dishwasher, and at least 3 people in the kitchen, plus a shift leader, me. My last night, the manager scheduled the 2 cashiers, 2 runners and baggers, and the dishwasher. However, only 1 scheduled kitchen worker and me. I called to request online ordering be turned off, which was normally done when we occasionally had less than 3 kitchen workers. The manager would sometimes just cut it off when they didn't want to do a lot of work that night. However, the manager denied my request because they would get in trouble. I complained that there's no way we could do all online, dine-in, to-go, call-in, and third-party orders with 1 kitchen worker, and me, who had to deal with customers, system problems, help in the kitchen, and supervise the other workers. The manager told me that if I needed extra help when the orders got too backed up, to call the dishwasher up to the lines to help for a minute. Good idea. I pull one of the runners into the kitchen to expo and have one of the cashiers rotate between the register and running when the runner needed help. I asked the dishwasher to come up to the line to help at about 6, and we were slammed until closing at 10. We had been 30 minutes behind on orders all night, so the dishwasher didn't get to any dishes that night. I go to do deposit, and the dishwasher starts walking towards the 3 sinks full and the floor full of dishes in the back. I ask what she's doing, and she answers that she's going to do the dishes. I tell her that her shift is over and she can go home. She says that she doesn't want to get in trouble for the dishes. I tell her that the manager said I could call her up when I needed help and that I needed her help all night and to not worry about it. If the manager said something, to say that I told her not to worry about them. What are they gonna do? Fire me? She leaves, I finish deposit, and leave the 3 sinks full and floor full of dishes and go home. Never heard a word from the manager about the dishes. I asked the dishwasher about it, and she didn't get in trouble for it because it was my call to not do them. For the record, the manager has left sinks full of dishes multiple times on the nights they closed if someone else was opening the next day. I knew the manager was opening the next day after my last shift, so payback? After trying to make my last shift a disaster out of spite, I made the manager's morning a disaster by having no dishes to open with. If you were supervising a place on your very last day and the manager left you with bare bones minimum, like you just cannot make it normally throughout that day, would you cause some dysfunctional stuff to happen? You know, something left for them to deal with after you're long gone? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by maliciouscompliance. Want me to cancel all your subscriptions? Yeah, I can do that. I used to work at a call center for one of the biggest teleproviders in our country. Mobile subscriptions, internet, landlines, all that. The call center I worked at was also only for business clients and not private customers, so it wasn't unusual for a client to have a lot of mobile subscriptions. One thing to note, I'm not sure how changing mobile providers in other countries work, but in my country, you have to get the other company you want to transfer to order the numbers from where you're currently to them. You can't cancel your subscription and then have it transferred. If you cancel your subscription, it stops working right away. If you want to transfer it after that, then you need to order a reopening of the subscription on that phone number for it to be able to transfer to the other teleprovider. And the reopening is treated as a new order and a new subscription, so it's an ordeal to go through. Also, and this is important for the story, if you have a debt collection case for an invoice with a teleprovider you're currently at, you'll then no longer be able to get new subscriptions with that company until the debt collection is paid in full. Now on to my story. I get a call in from a customer who had maybe 10 to 15 mobile subscriptions with us, as well as an internet connection, and apparently they worked with sales. The customer was very angry on the phone. He tells me that they received a debt collection case from us for an invoice they hadn't paid, which was true. There was an invoice in our system that they hadn't paid, and it had indeed gone to debt collection. He then told me that he knew about the invoice, but had just not bothered to pay it. What did you expect to happen if you didn't pay it? He then proceeded to berate me for sending them a debt collection and demanded that we cancel it immediately. One other thing to note, is that none of the people that worked on the floor of the call center have the authority to cancel debt collection cases. We need to send a case to another department for that. He wouldn't let me send a case, nor would he let me call a supervisor to maybe expedite things. He said that I should cancel it right away, or he would cancel all of their subscriptions right this second. Cue malicious compliance. Normally, when people threaten to cancel their subscriptions because of reasons, they mean they want to transfer to another provider. And I usually refer them to contact the other provider so they can start the process. This time, however, since the customer was being a jerk, I didn't do that. I asked point blank, "Do you want to cancel your subscriptions with us immediately?" The customer says yes. I say, "Are you sure?" They say yes. I say, "Okay then, I'll cancel all your subscriptions right this second." The customer says, "Good, jerk." Then he hung up. I logged the call with every detail that he had said and asked me to, and added an extra line of, "If any doubts, just listen to the recording of the call." I got at it and went ahead and canceled all of the subscriptions this client had with us, even their internet subscription. After about an hour, one of my coworkers got a very angry call from the client, who was forced to call from another phone because, guess what? Their subscription was canceled. I was done for the day, so I just went home. But my coworker filled me in the next day. The client had yelled and screamed that they were no longer able to call out or receive calls, as well as their internet was down. He had read the log I created and informed the client that they terminated our services, so of course they wouldn't receive any calls, nor make them. They demanded that we open up the subscriptions again so that they could do their work. But again, my coworker had to inform them that it wouldn't be possible since they had a debt collection case. That needed to be paid first, or else none of the orders they put in would go through. After more screaming and profanities, my coworker had to end the call. The next day, I had the evening shift, but I had saved the client's information to see if anything else had happened. Apparently, the debt collection got paid and the subscriptions reopened. They also had ordered a transfer to another provider. I have no idea how much money lost, but for a sales team to not be able to work for over 24 hours, I can only guess that it was a lot. Also, as a cherry on top of things, they were in a contract period with us, which means that they get a small discount on their subscriptions if they're with us for a set period of time. If they break that contract, which they did when they told me to cancel their subscription as well as transferring to another provider afterwards, they had to pay a fee of over $300 per subscription. That was at least $4,500 on top of what they lost the 24 hours they couldn't do anything. All because they didn't want to pay a $30 late fee. There's definitely nothing you can do but probably point and laugh because if you got bills, you gotta pay them. That's just inherently how being an adult works. We all have bills. You can't just go, "Nah, I ain't gonna pay those. If I ignore them, they'll just go away." This next story is by Cole Carmit. Wait, now I'm not supposed to think what the customer wants? So 2 malicious compliances in 2 weeks, new record for me. This can serve as a sequel to my previous malicious compliance, as the cast and the premise is the same, just reverse. As a quick catch-up, I work at a printing hub as a print and copy expert, working with the machines to get them to print, setting up files, and quality checking things before they come out. It's a pretty laid-back job and I really enjoy the technical side of it. Not so much my coworkers, however. Don't get me wrong, however, I have no doubt they're good people, but I feel that they've settled into the job a little too much, and every little change gets them riled up. And then there's the manager, Kay, who's a good person at heart, but recently stress has been causing her to take it out on the employees. I stick with it because up until now she's been good. She at least deserves for me to stick through a stressful moment, especially coming into holiday season. Anyways, the incident. 3 days ago, I was working with the big color machine printer. A rather large job came in for 200 books. This particular job was a rush order and needed to get out the same day, and the value of the job exceeded over $2,000. It was also a very important client I've worked with in the past, so I wanted to be extra sure everything was okay. When I printed my proof and leafed through the booklet, however, I noticed rectangular boxes where text should have been. This is normally caused by our computers or printers missing the font that the customer had used, and I suspect they used a different font than they normally use for the Halloween season. People, please provide your print studios with PDFs, not Word documents. So I called up the customer to figure out the font they needed. No answer. Well, frig. The thing was, this order needed to start printing immediately in order to reach the deadline. Unless I dedicate using both color printers we have to print the order, which is actually not recommended, as the color calibrations are different on both printers for some reason. I emailed the customer and put the order on hold. I knew the customer would want those fonts. Later on, my manager, who we'll call Kay, asked me about why the order was still on hold, and I explained that the file was not correct. I even brought up the file and showed her. She agreed that the file wasn't correct, however, she insisted on printing the order anyway. Kay says the order is a rush job and they absolutely need that order immediately. I say I understand that, but the file is wrong. If we produce the file and the customer rejects it, then we're out the money to produce the job. They say SLA is more important than a quality job. We won't get money if we fail to deliver on time. Me silently reminding myself that SLA includes quality, I say, Kay, I've dealt with this client before, I know they'll reject this. I'm fairly certain they would prefer waiting a day to get their stuff rather than receiving something they can't use. Kay says, Cole, just print the order anyways. Me dying inside says, yes, Kay. So this is funny, because last week Kay got after me about the exact opposite situation. There was an order we couldn't do correctly because our machines were dumping toner on the files. I assured Kay that I was certain the customer wouldn't mind the toner dump, but she said I wasn't thinking of the customer. I was thinking of the customer, as I was the customer. See my previous post for more information on that. Now I'm thinking about the customer and being told to ignore that. Okay, sure. So I printed the order, all $2,000 worth of it. It was a massive ordeal, which I knew was all going into the trash, but I did what Kay asked. Before I left for the day, I checked our business email and saw the client didn't email us back. Also tried calling again, and no response. I took one of the books with me and left for the day. Rather than going straight home, I stopped at the business I knew would be selling or giving out what we were producing since it was on the way, and showed the cashier. The cashier was absolutely horrified and immediately contacted the manager, who was out for the day. The employee thanked me for going out of my way to inform them and gave me some store credit, which I used on some paintbrushes for minis. Don't ask to see them, I just got started. Oh yeah, did I mention this place was one of the local gaming stores I started going to? I knew those booklets weren't supposed to look like that. The fallout didn't happen until today. The order was completely thrown out and we were forced to redo the entire thing at no charge. $2,000 down the drain. Kay, for the first time I can recall, tried to throw me under the bus when the head office asked us what happened. But my coworkers supported me and I pointed out on the job ticket that I had actually failed the quality check. I had no idea how that order went to shipping. I don't know what's gotten into Kay lately, but she's been extremely off. Before people start offering advice on how to proceed and such, I've already started recording situations like this and other odd occurrences happening around the facility, and advising my coworkers to do the same. Also, updating my resume just in case. I really would rather not leave this job, but better safe than sorry. I would definitely agree that what OP said is probably the smart thing. Just jotting down whatever's said to you, whatever weird behavior's going on, just try and cover your butt any way possible. And our final story of the day is by Doriantalus. Short and sweet, city folk come at the farmer. I grew up on a dairy, struggling every day 365 to help my family live. About 10 years in, the farmer's land next to us has a single house built onto a small plot near the irrigation riser, and a younger family from the city moves in for a quiet life in the country. Over the next year, the cops are at our place a dozen times about smell complaints, noise complaints, work started at 5 a.m., tractors and all, and other complaints about anything this family could think of, basically trying to get us shut down for existing outside the bounds of their imagined country life. In the winter, my dad would drive our tractor around to all the neighbors' houses on our mile and dig the snow out of their driveways so they could drive to work. A costly and time-consuming endeavor, but one of the main things a farmer can do to gain praise and feel good every day. Well, about 3 weeks into winter, this guy from the new house shows up at our door asking us to not do his driveway so early in the morning because it was waking him up. My dad explained that he had to do it at 5 a.m. because he did it before he started the other chores that took hours. The neighbor insisted he do it later or not at all. That was the last time my dad did his drive. Turns out, you have to wake up at about 5 a.m. to use your snowblower to dig out your own car if you want to get to work on time. I understand that they wanted to move to a quiet life in the country, but you don't move right next to a farm if you want that. Farms are like the most shining example of rise and shine early and getting to work early, turning the tractors on, getting all the machinery going, scooping up animal poop, the works. You don't want to live next to that if you want a quiet life. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.